Hello there. I've been thinking about this question for the last couple of days because I wanted to give you a decent response that helped people out. But the problem is, it's really tricky. It's a surprisingly complex issue in terms of how you can tell the difference between opinion and news sometimes. And sometimes there's shorthands, and sometimes there's not. The most logical shorthand, though, is that an opinion piece is going to be written in the first person. It's about I and me and we. Well, it doesn't always work out that way. In fact, there's one really famous commentator who creates content where he's all talking about you, or everything is done in the third person. And it's this guy. You see, Mike Hosking's content on News Talk ZB is actually presented in their timeline on their website and on their social media platforms like it's news. It doesn't say that it's opinion, even though it's Mike's Minute. It is an opinion piece, but he presents it like it's news. And then there's things like Grandaddy Herald here, who have this really weird habit of sometimes opinion pieces are written by experts, so they become expert views as opposed to generalized opinions. And for this one in particular, and it's certainly not the only example, it takes a little bit to find out it is an opinion because this is a business article written by a business editor. In fact, if you're scrolling through that on a phone, you have to scroll down before you get to this bit here that says it's an opinion piece. And in many ways, we've been conditioned for a long time to accept that some opinion pieces aren't actually opinion pieces, they're fluff pieces. So something like travel news, for example, or food news that is in your local paper, that's technically an opinion piece because it's very, very subjective. And some news outlets are much more transparent about the fact that they're offering opinion as well as news. Stuff actually doesn't call it opinions anymore, they call it perspectives. And perspectives mean that it's just somebody's point of view, so they don't necessarily have to go doing fact checking, which has been something that's tripped them up specifically in the past as well. And then you've also got public figures who can't tell the difference between opinion and news, which doesn't help because then they propagate this idea that what they're pushing is actually news and fact as opposed to opinion. And news and fact should meet a few different criteria. Anything that's presented as news has to meet certain legal requirements. So most things before they actually get published as news are going to go through a legal check to make sure it doesn't breach any rules around fair use of information, trust, or naming people who shouldn't be named. And then they have a media counsel requirement as well. So it has to be something that the report is going to be able to prove was factually correct, unless that happens at a sort of spur of the moment, breaking news kind of way. The other thing to remember is that we interpret things in interesting ways. So video, for example, we interpret that 70% by the audio. If you're vision impaired and you're having something read to you, for example, tone is a really important element that comes into how that gets interpreted. So really, there's no short answer.